Hey, peace and blessings. What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday fun day. You know what I'm saying? I know down here in Houston, man, it's not real sunny, but hey, it is what it is. It's nice, energy good, man. But hey, check this out. What I want to talk about today was communication, real quick, just real briefly as possible. Communication, man, for me, that is like one of my core value areas, that whole communication piece. Man, I was talking about when meeting someone, you have to be compatible in those core value areas, the things that really, just has to be there. And if it's not there, there's a disturbance. It might be even in an area where one may even be able to call a deal breaker area, you know what I'm saying? So, for me, that communication piece is very big, man. And, let me explain, because many people consider themselves communicators. Many people, many women I've met consider themselves to be open-minded, and that they said most guys they met weren't big on communication, weren't big on expressing their feelings and their thoughts. And I think it's just way deeper than that, you know what I'm saying? And, just real briefly, one thing about the male versus the female, the woman is basically an emotional creature. She's comprised of that. She's made up, built of that. So she exists a good, majority of her life and her days, feeling her way through things and so on, especially when those particular areas has been incited, But anyway, with that also being said, men are more mental, so our perspective is different. We come from different angles, and when the man, being that men don't really function inside of their emotions, and being that the emotional piece of the brain and the mental piece of the brain on two opposite sides don't work simultaneously, somewhat to say, one can override the other. They can find a balance, but for the most part, that balance is that one is going to slightly override the other one. I don't know if there's a perfect balance in that, but anyway, with that being said, too, men typically shut down because they're not used to, working in that capacity, like being able to think inside of that capacity too well, which is a lot of time when you find men don't, stop talking or become physical or whatever. It's because they haven't cultivated themselves consciously how to navigate through that little part of ourselves, or that characteristics that we possess. Okay, now with that being said, talking about the whole communication piece, man, what is real big about communication, which more people than not. I'm talking about from the intellectuals on down, from the so-called classy to the ghetto, from the bougie or whatever it is, many people neglect this real significant piece, and it's terminology, man. Terminology is big, and one thing about terminology in the English language, specifically, is that the English language is a language that you can say a word, and that word can mean a number of different things for each person. Yeah, you have its literal definition, but then even inside the literal definition, like a variety of perceptions can be brought out of it. Let me see if I can think of an example. Like, let's get some, like, okay, we're talking about strength, right? One of my brothers was saying, well, patience is a strength. Because I was like, this conversation about, there's this idea that it takes a strong man to deal with a broken woman. And so my statement against that was that, why does a man have to be weak or strong, to deal with a woman that really requires more patience than it will this idea of strength? And so another brother was like, a lot of people just say, yeah, without really giving that some thought, because it's not so much about strength. It's about what a person, which battle a person chooses to embark upon. And a lot of times when you choose to embark upon a certain battle, that means that you feel you have the tools to basically win or gear that battle a good fight. You know what I'm saying? And so, in a way, I believe that it takes more patience. And whether you're talking about patience or strength, those are two somewhat abstract type of ideals that are relative. You know, the only way you can measure strength and patience is by comparing it to something else. You know what I'm saying? There's like no authority that says, okay, well, that means that if you have this, and that, oh, you have a lot of patience. Or if you have this, and that, you have a lot of strength. There's really no authority that measures it like that. You know, that we can lean on and say, well, according to this, well, this says you're pretty strong. But, you know, so we all measure those two ideals according to someone else's or our own personal amount of patience or strength in a particular area versus something. So in a way, I say that to say, or use that as an example, say how the English language can be easily misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking and having a certain conversation, two people are having a certain conversation and they get lost on that particular fact. And so next thing you know, they're battling about what's strong and what's not, what's impatient and what's not. When those are two really like, you can't argue that. You know, you can't even argue that. So with that all being said, here's the main point I want to say about communication. I want to bring this to an end. When you're having a conversation with someone, you got to first of all make sure you two share and embrace the same source of authority that you're using to have this conversation about, or that you're trying to make your point on. You know, like what you might consider wrong. And let's say your source of authority is the Ten Commandments, right? Okay, that person has to also shout that the Ten Commandments is their source of authority, first of all. You know what I'm saying? For that to even have any relevancy, you know, for for that conversation to even be something that's logical to even indulge in. So, you know, with that thing, you know, so, and beyond that, you know, beyond the whole thing about sources of authority, then you have to make sure that you two are on the same page when you're using certain terminologies, you know, making sure that, a brother asked a brother to shop this here the other day. Young brother from Lamar was sitting in the chair. Another older brother said, okay, it really was a trick question, but the young brother was on game. So the older brother say, if you were underwater, would you be wet, or would you be considered wet, right? I thought about it because the question alone lets me know that it's not as simple as it may sound just because you asked it. So let me give it some thought. So the young brother said, no, because you would be submerged. See, now, when you think about the idea of submerged and wet, you got to go and say, okay, well, let me go look these two words up, you know, just in a simple Webster dictionary or something, and get some kind of understanding of what they say these two words mean, because I've never looked into it, investigated what submerged constitutes and what wet constitutes. But I think that the idea of being wet constitutes that you are also somewhat dry. You feel me? Just how people say, oh, he's soaking wet. Soaking wet implies that, oh, he's like totally wet, right? He's not just damp. And damp is a whole nother idea, right? You know, so anyway, when you're having these conversations, that's really, it may sound simple, but it's real huge, because it really matters how you know, it makes a big difference in regards to two people being on the same page or not, two people really having a harmonious conversation or not, two people being able to build through conversation or not. You know what I'm saying? And for me, man, I can't help who I am today. You know, once you brought out of the dog and into a certain level of light, they said you cannot go back into the dog. And so for me, I use words literally, you know what I'm saying? And so I try to stay in my lane. I try not to get too far out there and use words that I think I know the definition of, you know, and again, when I talk, I try to use, again, my words literally. I mean, I do use them literally. It's not so much that I just so much try, but I use words literally. So when someone's talking to me and you say, well, the dude hit me, you know, my part of the next question will be like, hit you where? And hit you why? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to get an understanding, because it seems illogical. Why would the guy come up to you and just hit you, right? And it may be that really the case was that the dude bumped you. The dude, he bumped into you, and it really was, he tripped over something and bumped into you. You didn't see him trip, but you thought the man intentionally bumped you with, so you say he hitting. I mean, in a way, it may sound crazy, but that is, people do that, man. People really do that, you know. I know, like in incarceration, you can actually bump an officer and get an assault case. You know what I'm saying? But if you go probably look up the legislation on assault, it really has the intent behind it. You know, any crime has to have a certain level of intent behind it, you know, before you're actually guilty of committing that crime. But anyway, man, with that all being said, I just really wanted you all to understand and really kind of, just try to share a perspective. 'Cause that's what Enlightened Minds Enterprise is about. That what your Hassan and Children is about. That what Mr. Shift Your Perspective is about. It's about trying to broaden perspective, with the intent that when we engage, man, because I want to make the world a better place. And I think one of the ways to make the world a better place is make people just respond to each other differently. Try to help us respond to each other differently. I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of things about the language that is really being taken for granted. It's being neglected. And that plays a big part into why there's so many misunderstandings. And you ever talk to somebody real quick, one more thing. You ever talk to someone and someone say, well, it seemed like you were saying, where it seemed like you was, or, what I'm saying, you may text something or you may say something, and instead of them investigating, getting a clear understanding of why you said whatever you said or what exactly you were saying, they'll just go with an assumption and say, well, it felt like you meant, or it seemed like you meant, and not 9 times out of 10, it'll always be towards the negative. Why? When it seemed like you meant something, or why does that never gravitate towards the positive? Why does that not be something, giving or building into the relationship, but instead it's always taken away from the relationship? You know what I'm saying? I've really lost so many different contacts of communicate with people behind something really that simple. And after so long, for me anyway, I don't have, I lose a certain interest in energy to always try to explain things to people when they're so quick to jump into these assumptions and conclusions. I just okay, man, cool. Because in that piece, like I say, communication is big for me. So if we can't connect there, I mean, it's nothing. We have nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's no sense me wrestling with you about that. You're not even trying to understand. You got to at least try, But anyway, 9 times out of 10, people will make you the bandit, make you the villain, make you the killer, the wrong person, whatever the case may be, because they feel like their personal perspective is all good and dandy. I try to stay as open-minded as possible. I'm going to try to always grab the understand. I try to always extend that understanding. And that's my piece. That's my contribution. Peace and blessings, man. Have a happy Sunday for the rest of the day, or whatever the case may be, whatever your plans is, man. I hope you make the best of it. I hope whatever it is you indulge in, man, that the most beautiful things come out of it. Peace and blessings. Again, Jer Hassan, the Enlightening Minds Enterprise, signing out. Peace.